Hello, this is my beloved sister Lianne, who you haven't met yet, but I'm very glad that you're going to meet. And she has a lot of very interesting testimonies to share, and she blesses me all the time with her insights and her wisdom, and I'm asking her to share some of her testimonies about her experiences in the church, actually, because unlike me, Lianne grew up Christian.
Yeah.
So she's been a Christian all her life. So,
I did, yeah. I grew up in the church. I was born there.
yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
So your parents are Christians.
Yeah,
Mm.
they are. Yeah. But we've been in, until I was about 12, we went to kind of a traditional Protestant church.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, our road started to change.
Mm-hmm.
My parents began to take us to an evangelical church.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was a big change actually for our family, whereas, you know, the faith or religion was just part of our lives, but you never really spoke so much about it, even though my parents did at house. But I mean, in church or in school,
Mm-hmm.
with friends, or even my parents amongst their friends, they wouldn't talk so much about about faith.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if they did, it was mostly, there was a lot of arguments also. And then at a certain point, when I was about 12, my parents started to have issues with that they felt like, you know, is this it? And I don't want to get too much into that, but then my father took singing class from a lady that went to an evangelical church, and he was really touched by her. Yeah, he just sensed that she really had a personal relationship with the Lord, and he had never experienced that, and so he became very curious. And then my parents decided to go once to her church, and they took us, and from there, gradually we started going there, and eventually they left their old church, and the interesting thing is that there was the first time that our we started really talking also in the family about really having a personal relationship with God. And for the first time in my life, I saw my dad crying. I had never seen him cry before, and he was a very gentle, sweet man, but he just never cried, you know. And then there in that church, I noticed he started crying because he was so touched by the love of the Father, and so it had a huge impact on our family. And I wanted that. I really wanted that, and so.
And you were 12?
I was 12 when we started
Yeah.
going there, and then in about 3 years of time, I started developing my own relationship with God. Started to learn, or to get more aware of Jesus, that he's not a distant person, but that he's alive, and that he's really, you know, that I can have a personal relationship with him.
And did you experience that for yourself, or were people kind of guiding you into having a personal relationship with him?
I started experiencing it myself. I mean, people were telling me about it, and I just, the first time we went to this church, I sensed, I just sensed an atmosphere that I really, really liked, and I felt really happy and safe there. And gradually, you know, I got involved in youth activities, and they would go to campouts and have, you know, have these youth group events, and I would go there. And I remember once when I was, I think, about 13 or 14, that we went to a youth event for young people, and it was all in English, and I'm from the Netherlands, but
It wasn't obvious.
but it was a huge event, and a Christian event, and there was a lot of time there for worship. So they made music, they had bands, and we would sing a lot of songs for God and for Jesus. And And then the atmosphere was just so wonderful that I just wanted more of that. And so, yeah, I started seeking more with the Lord and praying myself. And I remember once in this event that they invited young people to go to the front if you wanted to have a personal experience with the Lord and surrender your heart to Jesus. And I just wanted that, so I felt a big desire, so I almost ran up front to receive prayer. And then some people started praying for me, and then I just felt such an enormous warmth and love. It was so overwhelming, but it felt so good, and I started crying, and I started speaking in a different language that I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is this? Now I know that the Bible speaks also about tongue language, but at this moment I didn't know about this. I didn't know so much from the Bible, even though I grew up in a church. But so I didn't know what it was, and but it was just a very strong feeling that I was loved, and it was where I was aware that it was Jesus touching me.
So you weren't frightened, or even though
No,
it seemed
not
strange?
at all. No, I just wanted more.
Yeah.
But I did. I do remember when I got back in church that I asked the pastor of that church, like, "What is this? This is my
What happened?
experience." So he explained to me what he thought it was, and in that time it was very sincere experience. Nobody had told me about it. It just happened, and it was very sincere experience. And I think I was only 14. By the time I was 15, my parents got baptized in the church. They wanted to, be baptized, and then I realized I wanted that too. So when I was 15, I got baptized. But shortly after that, everything changed for us, and then the road became very rough. 2 weeks after I was baptized, our church fell apart. I knew in that time that
2 weeks?
just 2 weeks after that, where there had been problems in the leadership of the church, and I don't know anything about it. I just knew that there were some problems, and that people from outside, from another church were helping out. But I didn't really know, and I didn't care, because it was my home, my family, and I felt so safe there. But then 2 weeks after I was baptized, they told us that the church was going to close. And that was final, and that was a big shock to our whole family, also to my parents. And so at the moment where I felt like I needed my spiritual family most, it just all fell apart. And from there, my parents tried to take us to new churches, but that was very hard and very complicated, and we never felt at home anywhere anymore as we had in this church. And it became very confusing. Since that time I've seen lots and lots of different churches inside and out, and with very different atmospheres, very different ways of
Ways of worshipping.
yeah, exactly.
Even understanding the Bible.
Also
so
very
different denominations.
Very different denominations. I think my parents were a bit lost, like not knowing
just
what next. And going back to the old church was also not an option. So and that was hard.
Did the old church sort of reconvene? Did it come back together in some way, or it just dissolved and that was it? Gone?
It just dissolved and never came back. No, I know that there started a home group, and we've been going there sometimes, but we never stayed. And so I don't remember a whole lot, but what I do remember is the feeling, and the feeling was that you felt lost and
like homeless.
confused, homeless. and very, very insecure also. Like, how is this possible? And I remember then, when I turned about 17 towards 18, I had to make a career choice. You know, I had to find out what to study. And I had no idea. And the only question that was always on my mind is, how is this with the churches? You know, where I just felt like there must be. I had so many questions to God, like, what is His way with the church, and how come there is there are so many problems there, and I couldn't find an answer. But I couldn't let go of God.
No.
Because the experience of His love for me was so sincere. So I found a study. It's basically a bachelor in theology that I did. I started that, and actually my motivation to do that was to find an answer on my struggle. You know, God's way with the church, and what is the truth, and where can you find God in the church? That was my question at the moment, at that time. And but I didn't find the answer there. Well, for many, many years I didn't find the answer. No, fortunately. And then my brothers started to get really discouraged. They didn't want to go to church anymore. And well, by the time I started my study, we hadn't been going to church so often because my parents didn't know where to go anymore. And then I remember my mom once, prayed like, I think she prayed like, Lord, what now? I don't know where to go. And then she saw a church service on television, and that really touched her. And she searched on the internet if there was a church like that in the area, and it appeared that it was just 15 kilometers from our house. There was a church like that, and then she suggested that she and my dad would go there. And in that time, I was studying in another town.
It's good your parents didn't give up the search, and you didn't give up the search.
At that time, no, they didn't.
You're still looking for fellowship, even though you had these difficult experiences.
We did. For a long time, I think me and my mom,
testimony to your love
me
for
and my
God,
parents, the longest. And in that time, I had to find a place, a church where I could do my practical. So I didn't know where to go because I didn't have a church anymore. And then my parents told me they were going to this church that she'd seen on the internet. It was like a Pentecostal church, something. And I asked, can I come? And the only thing I thought was maybe I can do my practical there. And that's where I met my husband, actually, in that church.
Yes, I know her husband.
We met
and
there.
her parents. Very good.
Thank you. Yeah, I met him there, and then for several years, even though my parents eventually they didn't feel at home there either, so they withdrew.
Yeah,
they withdrawn themselves. Withdrew, yes, and but I stayed because my husband was, or my fiance at the time, he was there. He grew up in this church his whole life, and so we stayed there. Even though I also saw that also in this church were issues, and I didn't like that, and but I stayed. And then we got married just before I graduated, and we moved to the town where my parents were living, and just before that also same type of church started in this town. And so we thought, why go every Sunday? At that time we were going on Sunday to church. Why go every Sunday to the old town? It's 15 kilometers when we can go in our own village, you know. So actually that was when we got married, that from that time we decided to go to this church in our own village. And for a while that was good. It was very small, and it was good, but we came also there to a point where we saw that this is also not it. You know, there's a lot of issues here, and my husband, you have to understand, he's the most loyal person I've ever met. He's very loyal. Once he gives his heart to someone, it's for life. You know, when he's very loyal in his friendships, I can learn a lot from that. But also to his church, he was very loyal. And I was already having a lot of doubts with the church that we were going to together, because I had seen so many things. I've been disappointed so many times, and so I wanted to back out there. And but he didn't, because he thought, you know, it's my church. I'm not just leaving that. But then when he came at the one afternoon, I remember we were in the house, and we were having a very deep conversation, and all of a sudden it was also about the church and the issues that were going on. And when he started, all of a sudden he started crying, and he said, you know what, Lianne, I feel so empty. I feel as if there is no life, no faith, nothing anymore. It's not that I don't believe in God, but just it's so empty. And he said, I'm not filled in the church. I'm not. It's only, there's only problems and struggle and strife, and I can't do it anymore. And he was really crying,
not experiencing the life.
Yeah, and this was really for me, you know, seeing him crying out like that. Then I said, then why are we still going? And he said, I don't know. And then we quit going. I mean, we had a talk with the pastors, but we couldn't do it anymore. And at that time, I thought, never a church again, never. I can't do this.
But it still didn't compromise your faith in God.
No, I still believed in God. It wasn't. I could distinguish between God and people messing up. You know.
It's very important. Very important.
But still I didn't understand, because I thought if the place where it should work should be,
I know,
the people who know Jesus. You know, because
idealistic.
but it doesn't. And
I hope it doesn't take us on a tangent, but I'm really curious. What was it that was lacking when you say that, there were things you saw you didn't like and you wanted to pull away from? What were those things, and what were the things that you were looking for in a church?
The things that I didn't like was the strife.
So the arguments. And
yes. And the judging.
Yes, Okay.
This I didn't like, and also that I had seen too often that this eventually led to split-ups. We've experienced several split-ups. The church where I met my husband, we experienced split-up. That's when I already wanted to leave, but he wasn't ready. Then we got married. We went to the church in our village, and there was a split-up. You know, the strife led to people leaving, and
it's interesting that, because I was thinking about that just the other day, where so we read in the Bible that we are supposed to admonish each other and correct each other, and, but of course we do it in a spirit of love. But I'm not sure we quite master that really, and I think oftentimes it does go that way, doesn't it? Where perhaps the judgments are just coming from a personal, dislike or preference, and it's not really. I don't think that's really the way we're supposed to be doing it. Perhaps there's a misunderstanding about how we admonish each other, how do we correct each other, biblically. I'm not sure we've quite mastered that yet. Because it does seem to go exactly that way. Like you say, it's like people get hurt and offended, or some people just get very arrogant and they just put their own opinions, or I think we still need a ways to go. Learning how to master, sharing, criticisms or corrections in love. In a way that,
and also to think like what is really essential here. Is it really worth? Is it really worth the strife? And your other question was, what were you looking for? I just wanted to be loved. that was
So
basically,
you want a community,
yeah,
a loving community,
yeah,
where you can feel
yeah,
part.
where I can feel the
Yeah,
love
I
of God,
understand, yeah.
and that it's
Yeah.
flowing through the people.
Yeah.
And I mean, not
Sounds
that
good.
I was perfect. I mean, I
No,
also
well,
had my
that's it.
issues.
None of us are. None of us are.
But
That's the whole point.
I
Yeah.
think that was what I was really longing for. I
Mm.
just wanted to be
Yeah.
loved and
Yeah.
accepted, and
And to-
that there was no strife.
Yeah, and to share your love of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I look for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I mean I feel.
And
I'm
this
having
I
that,
couldn't
yeah.
let go.
Yeah.
I mean, the strong experience that I had when I was so young, and also because I realized that he had been with me my whole life. Because in the time when I was like between 12 and 15, when I was getting to know the Lord personally and surrendering my heart to Christ, in that time in this church, like I said, the atmosphere that I felt there I really liked, but it made me think back to my childhood, where when I was lying in bed, being afraid in the dark, I could be very afraid in the dark, and I was always afraid of monsters under my bed, and so what I would do was I would just, because I was just freezing up in my bed sometimes, and I would just be under the covers, and I started singing to the Lord songs that I had learned at school, and psalms, and I would just started singing those songs, and then I would feel I don't know really how to describe, but it felt like a blanket of warmth,
Yeah.
and comfort and safety, and just something very warm, and that calmed me down.
Yeah.
And at that time I didn't recognize it as the Lord. I didn't know that was God.
Yeah.
But it calmed me down, and it helped me. And then in this time in this church where I really got to know Jesus, I felt the same atmosphere. I just had a deja vu to my childhood, and sitting in bed, and so I felt that same atmosphere. And this has helped me later on, even though the church had disappointed me and let me down. This really helped me to realize that even though the church had failed me, God had always been there, and I should not let him go.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then after a few years, I did go back to church.
Okay.
In the beginning,
It's
one of
interesting
my
that longing for fellowship. I can relate to that.
I think
I mean, I
that's
didn't
it,
grow up in a
because
church, but I did start longing for fellowship. After I
that
came
was
to
what I was
Jesus.
missing when I
Yeah.
wasn't going to church. I missed the fellowship.
Yeah.
And the sharing of the faith. And
it's true. It's I mean, it's inexplicable, but it's I mean, it's written in the Bible. Yes, we're to gather together. But I didn't understand it either. But it really was a longing. Yeah. I just have to do it.
Yeah.
I have to. Yeah.
Yeah. My brother, one of my brothers. Then after, I think we didn't go to church for about 2 years, my husband and I. And then my brother got married, and he and his wife went to a new church in our village. And then he said, "Oh, you really have to go there. You will love it so much." And I said, "No, I'm not going to any church anymore.
I'm church phobic.
I'm done with it." And both my husband and I were not really enthusiastic about it. We were not eager to go. But my brother kept, coming back to it and saying like, you have to experience it once. It's really, really nice. You'll love it. I know you'll love it. This is what we've been looking for, And so at a certain point, I got curious, and I thought, all right, well, it doesn't hurt to try once. You never know. And so we went there. And the first time we got there, I felt so loved there and so welcome, and there was a very nice atmosphere, and people were very friendly, and wanting to meet you, wanting to get to know you. So there were more than enough people that after the service they would come to us to talk, so you were not left alone as a stranger. They really showed interest. And I also, it was a church where there was a lot of, they said, everyone brings something to the church. It's not just the pastor preaching and the band making some music, but everyone can bring something, if it's a word or a song or a thought or a prophecy or whatever, you know. And this was kind of like what I also knew a little bit from the church in my youth, but more. And I saw that people were invited to come to the front and to share what was on their heart, what they thought was from God, from the Holy Spirit. And yeah, very soon I got involved in that, and because I felt also a lot. I just wanted to. I was still, you know, I think in that time I was also very much. I was aching because I was really hurting for all the things I had seen, the strife I had seen, and the other thing was I was just aching myself just to be accepted and loved.
Yeah.
And I felt this happening here, and I to me in that time it really felt like, you know, this is the Lord at work, and He is working through these people, and it is possible, you know. And then we all started coming. My other brothers and my parents even started coming, and my dad hadn't gone to church also for quite some time, and for a while, yeah, it seemed almost like too good to be true. But gradually I began to have the confidence that maybe this is it. Maybe I finally found my spot. But unfortunately, that also went wrong
Yeah.
in the end. Yeah, but that was after 7 years or so.
Wow, so you went there for 7 years?
Yeah, I think
Wow,
about 7
okay.
years. But eventually, by the time I left, I was completely, as never before, I was completely as,
Like wounded.
swept off my
Yes,
feet.
yeah.
In every area of my
Wow.
life, everything had been fallen apart. My my work, it wasn't going well. My marriage wasn't going well. My relationships with friends and family were not well. And then eventually the one place where I thought everything was stable, the church,
Also.
started with problems, and then I just fell flat on my face, and that was the most scary period in my life, actually. Yeah, and there's a lot to tell about that, but maybe some other time.
We could make a separate video about that, because I think that's,
because that has by far been the most. I mean, I thought I had it all, you know, all the I thought there could not be a bigger disappointment after everything I already had experienced in churches. But here, this was like the. I didn't see it coming, but it was far more difficult than all the other experiences I had before in the churches, and but I mean, that sounds a bit demotivating, but
no, it's a bit of a cliffhanger, I think.
yeah, I think so. But
I think
I'm
of it
like,
as a
you know,
cliffhanger.
yeah.
I think stay tuned. And you're going to get the next episode.
Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, because that's a whole different story on its own. But eventually, there is a story of hope there.
That's right.
Yeah,
and also,
really.
I think as well, just from knowing her, Yeshua never has taken his hand off her. He's
Never.
always been there. She's always known that. So yeah, this is the story of people and flesh,
and I think this
confusion, and that He is stable. And
that's definitely when I look back. This is what really is true. And I think this is also something that we feel we have in common. Like, we have very different backgrounds, and we've experienced so much in search of the truth.
Yes,
you know, even you were out of the church, I was in the church.
Sincere love of the truth.
But all. I hear you say it often, but I have that too. All I want is to know the truth, you know, and all I want is the love of God that I know is there. And so I can tell you that story next time. But definitely in the end there is there is a story of hope, because
that's right. I do think it's an important story. I know it's actually a difficult story for Lianne to tell because she was so wounded, but I personally feel like it's a very important story to tell, especially right now, the way the church is going, and I think there's a lot of people are yearning for revival and for the power of the Holy Spirit, but we really have to make sure that we are receiving the right spirit.
Right.
And
That's all let's do that the next time.
Let's do that next time. So thank you very much for watching. This is Lianne.
Thank
my
you.
dear sister in Christ. Okay, bye-bye. God bless.